Yes, thank you all for coming up here and waiting patiently. I am Kristen Green with the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office. I am the Public Affairs and Government Relations Officer. Uh, we want to confirm for you that about 7:50 this morning, YCSO received a 911 call, as a matter of fact, multiple 911 calls about a man being mauled by a bear up here in the Groom Creek area. YCSO deputies and Prescott PD responded, and when they arrived on scene, they did in fact find a man who has now been identified as 66-year-old Stephen Jackson from Tucson as having been deceased, and also the bear that attacked him is also deceased. What we have found thus far is that we believe that this was an unprovoked bear attack by this bear for a gentleman who was up here building a cabin, and he was in his campsite. He's been there for a while. This was not unusual for him to be sitting there. In the meantime, Game and Fish was called, and so what I'm going to do on the details of what we know so far from witness statements and others is turn it over to Sheriff Rhodes, and then Game and Fish will be able to answer some questions about the bear and their investigation as well. So any questions before that?
Spell your name.
Kristin Green.
Are you able to confirm the spelling of Stephen? Is it a V or TH?
What was the question?
V or PH. I believe it's a V, but I'll have to check for that. I'll check that for sure, okay? All right, I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Rhodes.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for waiting patiently. This is a very unique situation, and I just want to lead off by saying we're so very saddened by the loss of Mr. Jackson in this way. This is a very tragic situation, and as Ms. Green stated earlier, we did receive YCSO deputies, Prescott Police Department officers, Prescott Animal Control. A lot of people responded to these 911 calls this morning. It's a bit of shock and disbelief what they found. They found that Mr. Jackson, and we believe this now from all the evidence that we've had at the scene, that there is at the scene, the witness statements that we have, that Mr. Jackson was sitting on his property in a chair and he was attacked by a bear. We do know that it was an adult male bear. There was quite a struggle. Neighbors responded. They heard him yelling, calling out for help. They responded. They tried to get the bear to stop attacking him. There was honking horns, different things that they were doing. There was no success in stopping the attack. The bear attempted to, or did actually, move Mr. Jackson down away from his, pulled him down off the hill quite a ways, maybe 75 yards, and was in the process of consuming him when one of the neighbors eventually responded with a firearm and was able to shoot and kill the bear and stop the attack. But unfortunately, Mr. Jackson was deceased at that point. So investigations like this, if you have any type of death that occurs out in the forest, that's the jurisdiction of the sheriff and the local medical examiner. And we went out there and made these, we're very confident that this was a result of an attack of a bear, and we called the Arizona Game and Fish Department to come and do this investigation and really try to help us all understand, the community, the public, the people that live up there, what was driving this behavior, what may have caused this, why something like this could have happened. This is bear country. I mean, Yavapai County, you look around, it's gorgeous. We do have a lot of wildlife up here, including bears. In my personal experience as sheriff here and a lifelong resident of Yavapai County, this is exceedingly rare. In fact, I don't know that I've ever been a part of anything like this in my life. I know that I haven't. So we're trying to get answers, we're trying to get information out there. YCSO, the Sheriff's Office, got a lot of 911 calls this morning after people began to hear about the bear attacks. And people were afraid. There's a lot of questions about if there was other bears in the area that were aggressive. The answer to that question is no. We've had no other information that there are aggressive animals or bears in the area. We have no information at this time. Also, I want to make sure it's clear to the public, you can't shoot the bears unless they are a threat somehow to yourself or someone else. We had a lot of questions about that this morning, a lot of calls. So I just want to make sure everybody knows there's no more information that would indicate anybody was unsafe. Now I'll take any questions before I turn it over to Arizona Game and Fish Department, and they can answer questions and make a statement about how this investigation is going to go.
Sheriff Rhodes, do we know if Stephen had any bear mace or firearm on him or at the campsite?
At this point, that the scene is still under investigation. We had not found anything like that at this time. I couldn't say that it's not there, but we haven't found it.
What advice do you have for people who frequent these woods or lives in these kinds of areas? I know a lot of them probably already know, but what would you give to out-of-towners, I suppose?
Well, again, as I said earlier, these are exceedingly rare circumstances, and we haven't seen this before. You don't want people to be, to freak out, shoot bears, shoot animals. We want you to enjoy yourself, but you have to respect wildlife. You have to respect the animals that live out here, and you got to know that this is their habitat too, and they're here. Now, none of that justifies the actions of the bear here today. I mean, this is clearly just a vicious attack on somebody who it was unprovoked, is what it appears to me from what I've seen.
Is there any indication there was food in or around the area that would have lured the bear into this? I mean, I can't say obviously or highly likely or most likely, but that's what bears do. They're looking for food, right? So that's how they end up at people's houses.
So again, the entire scene is under investigation. I personally did not see, any reckless feeding or food or anything. I can't say that it's not there anywhere, but I did not see any of that at the scene. Still under investigation.
Do you know if Jackson's family was staying with him at all, or if they've been informed about that at this point?
The answer,
Jackson's family, have we talked to any family of his, or were any of them staying there with him in the cabin?
yes, his brother has been notified, who is out of state, who is his next of kin, and we're in the process of talking to other people, so they are aware, yes.
Sheriff Rhodes, have you had eyes on this particular bear? Could you describe how large it was?
I will tell you, it was an adult male, but I'm going to stop short of that because I'm not the biologist, but I do know it was an adult male, and I do know a little something about bears. I've seen a lot of them, and it was an adult male.
Do you know if neighbors in this area had seen this bear around, had seen any aggressive anything from it before?
So I can't answer that question. We personally have not had reports that would indicate that this bear has been reported by somebody else as being a problem or a nuisance or a threat to anybody.
We've heard from some neighbors they've seen more bears since the Crooks fire. How close was this to that fire line, and is that something that's consistent with what you see?
The Crooks fire was 6-7 miles up the road, up on top of the mountain up here in Mount Union. And I don't know, I would not indicate that, one caused the other. The Crooks fire caused the bears to move down here. This is it's bear country. And, there's a lot of bears in the area. Prescott Basin's known for it. And so, people are seeing them.
Are you able to see if it's a black bear, a brown bear?
Well, the species is black bear, but you can have a lot of different colors that are still called black bears, but this bear is in fact black.
Sheriff Rhodes, obviously it must be traumatic for the neighbors to witness what they saw. Have you heard any stories from them about just how traumatic that situation was?
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked to the neighbors, and they're in shock. They knew Mr. Jackson very well. He was well liked up there. He was a part of the community. He's trying to build his cabin. It's a very close-knit area on top of the mountain, and I think that they're in shock and disbelief. I know that they are. They told me that.
You've mentioned you've been building that cabin for a while. Do you know about how long you've been staying up there and working on that?
No, I don't have an answer to that. But I'm going to ask Arizona Game and Fish to come up now, and if you don't have any other questions, make a statement and answer any questions.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Darren Tucker. I'm a field supervisor with Arizona Game and Fish, based here out of the Prescott area. First of all, as an agency, we want to offer our condolences to the Jackson family for this, as Sheriff Rhodes said, for this tragedy that happened this morning. Confirming this is an adult black bear, black in color. Initial estimates, we were estimating the bear between that 6 to 10-year-old range. We will get further confirmation of that in the future. We have officers up there right now with the sheriff's office concluding investigation of the scene. collecting the bear, everything pertinent to the situation that occurred.
By just looking at it, is it bigger than normal? Is it about average size, 300-400 pounds? Or?
You know, bears estimating weight can be difficult, but this is a mature, a large size adult male black bear.
What's the next step in an investigation like this?
Well, we will process the bear. We will transport it to our Phoenix headquarters. Our staff there will conduct a necropsy on the animal, look at all perspectives of this, and gain any further information that we can from
I know
it.
the sheriff already talked about this a little bit, but can you expound on just how rare it is for an attack like this to happen in this area?
Super rare. I think the last attack or fatality in Arizona was 2011. That was over in the Pine Top area, I believe. So a number of years ago. Extremely uncommon, extremely rare. Sightings or reports of bears in and around the Prescott area and other parts of the state are very common. The population of black bears in Arizona is very robust, lots of bears. It's not uncommon for us to get reports of them. The presence of Ring doorbells and other surveillance cameras that folks have on their houses, quite often that's accompanied, reports are accompanied by video of bears and mountain lions both. So, you know, on an annual basis, we get, I don't know the number, probably hundreds of them in around reports around the Prescott area. We have had zero reports of any kind of aggressive or threatening behavior from a bear anywhere around here, specifically in this area.
Why
Mr.
would
Tucker,
a bear do this?
Yes, ma'am?
Why would a bear do this?
I don't know. I don't presume to understand exactly why a bear would do it. This attack appears to be predatory in nature, though.
What kind of firearm was used to kill the bear?
I don't know the answer to that offhand.
Sheriff Road, you know? It was a rifle.
I will say that the immediate area, at least our observation, we didn't see any obvious attractants. The location and the surrounding residences looked pretty tidy. However, typically 9 times out of 10 when we have wildlife-human conflict, there is some nexus to food, whether that's feeding of wildlife or access to trash containers. But as we continue our investigation, I don't know if any of that information will turn up, but that's always out there.
what does Game and Fish do proactively after an attack? I guess investigating the surrounding areas. Is there any steps that you guys take in that kind of manner to look at the habitat and where people are living?
Not necessarily. Fortunately, this bear is dead now, and it does not pose a threat any longer, obviously. We continue our outreach to the public. We have a lot of information on our website, living in bear country or lion areas or with javelina. We can direct people there. But it's just something, the presence of wildlife when people live in somewhat remote areas like this, it just needs to be in the back of their mind all the time. Again, I want to stress that this situation is extremely unusual, not the norm.
So some people might call this spot right here pretty remote from Prescott. How much more remote was the attack area?
I would consider it a little more remote than this, but there were scattered cabins in the area.
Mr. Tucker, we know that bear attacks are rare. Is there anything about this specific circumstance with the information that we do have that stands out to you as an extra rarity?
Not necessarily. Like I said, there was no obvious attractants. There was nothing jumped out at us as being obvious of why this occurred or what brought the bear to this location. Again, it was an adult bear. Very initial evaluation of the bear, it appeared to be healthy and in good condition. Our further investigation, once this animal is full necropsy is conducted, that might daylight something else that would shed some light on what maybe caused it.
As it stands right now, is it surprising to you?
Oh, very surprising. Yes. You know, a lot of us, we live, we work in this area. I personally recreate in this area, and it's not necessarily always on my mind when I'm out there, but very unusual, very surprising.
Are there diseases that bears would get that could make them react in a attack manner, or like what this one did?
I suppose. I hazard to guess on what that might be. We didn't, again, initial observations didn't indicate anything that would, there were no observations that indicated that this bear was sick or diseased, but we will, our folks at our Phoenix headquarters are very skilled at this, and they will check into all that.
So there's obviously probably people on the road right now coming up here to camp this weekend, and people probably have plans to come up here this summer. What's your message to them?
Again, this is a highly unusual, isolated event. This bear, the offending bear, is no longer an issue. Keeping that in mind, we don't want to cause panic among people that are going to come to recreate around Prescott or anywhere else in the state. Just keep in mind some kind of the bear aware facts. Again, that information can be available on our website. If you're camping, secure your cooler maybe inside a hard-sided car. If you're camping in a tent, don't ever have any food or toothpaste or anything that could potentially be an attractant inside a tent or where you may be. Some kind of common sense like that. But again, very unusual, very unusual.
Mr. Tucker, I ran a quick search from that last one that you referenced. At the time, I believe it said that there was 10 bear attacks in Arizona dating back from the 90s. Would this be the, I don't know if, John, you could look into that about how many
I've got it in my car.
You do have it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
I don't have it
wanna put you on
offhand.
Spot, but I just want to get the
Yeah.
It's 14.
14. This is the 14.
This will be the 15th.
This would be the 15th
And the
since.
second fatality.
Okay.
Since what year?
Since the 90s?
Late 80s.
Since late 80s?
How long does an autopsy take to look into and say, were there any other circumstances that made this bear die?
I don't know for sure. I would guess, I haven't coordinated the calls with the veterinarian that works for us. I'm guessing that she will be in the office today, working on it today, tonight, tomorrow. It will be a very high priority, obviously.
This wasn't a situation where you all were on the lookout for a bear or anything like that. This is totally new to you.
No, absolutely. We were not on the lookout for this particular bear. Again, we field, and again, I don't have the exact numbers right in front of me, but numerous reports every week, and I would say daily, of bear and lion sightings in and around the Prescott area. And typically the reporting parties, we will make contact with them, give them some advice on the standard of, as far as securing trash and that, what to do, the basics. We were not aware of, nor were we investigating any kind of activity related to, again, aggressive or predatory or unacceptable bear activity in this area.
Is it helpful for your agency? Like, we've gotten videos of bears in this area. Is it helpful for you guys to receive those videos, or do you guys not care because it's bear country?
We will investigate anything, and any information we get can be useful if it shows a particular pattern in an area. Absolutely.
Like for this one, could you maybe look at a video and say, hey, maybe he came from this side, and that matters in terms of looking at this specific case, or does that not matter?
I'm not sure it would have much bearing on this specific case, but again, we'll look at anything. Sometimes evidence that may not seem like much could be of use to us in this or other situations. Sure.
Do you endorse the actions of neighbors who stepped in and did everything they could?
Absolutely. I mean, they, I don't know. They did everything they could to help Mr. Jackson. Again, this is, imagine going from zero, meaning just being relaxed and having a cup of coffee, to all of a sudden a neighbor is screaming for help. And they did respond. I think they yelled at the bear. They did what they could. One individual specifically honked a horn to see if that would cause the bear to disengage. He did not. He continued on what he was doing. And it wasn't until the neighbor was able to retrieve a firearm and dispatch that bear that ended the situation. And unfortunately, it didn't help Mr. Jackson, but it definitely prevented the situation where we had this scenario and a bear at large. The bear's actions were stopped right there. So, thank goodness that person took that action.
The person that had the rifle that stopped the bear, how far were they from the bear at the time?
I'm not sure. It's fairly thick up there as far as the trees, so it'd have to be relatively close, but I don't want to throw out a distance and be wrong. Less than 100 yards.
Thank you.
We're good, yeah.
Darren, can I just get you to spell your first name for us?
Darren, Darren. Last is Tucker, Tucker.
Your title one last time?
Field supervisor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.